This episode of Made in America is brought to you by America's Inventor and Home Talk USA. Home Talk is a proud member of the King's Broadcasting Network, which has been bringing you the best in home-based innovation since 1998.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America.
This segment is brought to you by the law offices of R.P. Baraska. RPB law offices have been bringing corporate-level legal expertise to the independent inventor community for more than 20 years. For all your inventing legal needs, trust rpblawoffices.com.
Welcome, America. That's right. We want to welcome all of you that's just tuned in from the Invent America show. Invent America Radio with the world-renowned inventor lady herself, Rita Crompton, and the Cajun Contractor. This is the Made in America show on the King's Broadcasting Network. Rita, I tell you, great job on that last segment. You had some great, really good information that went out there. Some really outstanding entrepreneurs and developers of all these great products, and I call them the products of the future. But for all our audience that's now tuning in, what's been happening since, a lot of things are going on right now when we're talking about trying to produce products in America. And maybe we need to maybe re-educate our audience to understand what we're talking about here. Because a lot of companies and a lot of manufacturers are just sticking that made in America or made in the U.S. label on there. And realistically, it's not. And I'm having a problem with that. When do you distinguish, Rita, when's a product made here in the United States? Is it assembled here in the United States? Where's the raw materials coming from to put that product together? All these factors really matter. Now, you understand my position on all this. I basically say I don't care where the raw materials come from. My viewpoint is, as long as it's assembled here in the United States and we provide the distribution and provide the factory workers, so on and so forth. You stated in the past that you had a problem, say, okay, something that don't make sense, the raw material starts here in the United States, right? You many times. Then it goes to China, and then it comes back here, and the people pay a lot more for getting the same raw materials. So there's a lot of confusion going on right now, Rita, right?
Well, there is. The product that you were talking about was a flagpole that was, designed by a woman in Colorado, and she wanted it made in America. But the company that multiple estimates on it, it was going to be $175 for a flagpole, and they were just dumping a bunch of poles in her yard. So, all right, got to bite the bullet, go and get some pricing in China. For it to be made in China was going to be $6.75, and that was delivered price, packaged, everything, beautiful packaging on a pallet and ready to sell. Okay, but They were shipping the aluminum from the U.S. to China to make it. There's something wrong with that. Yeah. And, she did not have a choice, that nobody was going to pay $175 for a flagpole. And I know that there are certain criteria now that come into play. And so when we've got on our next guest, they all, in order to say made in America, they've got to meet certain criteria. So we'll ask Chad about that and what.
Yeah, and I want to know that because, I have my own opinion. I've been doing this.
Really? Never noticed that.
Yeah. I've been doing this for 29 years now. So I fought the battles. I won some, lost some. But at the end of the day, we're still here providing that information. The point I'm trying to make here also is that I've did many experiments. And some of the experiments I've done. I proved without a shadow of doubt, that the American consumer will buy American if the manufacturers give them a reason to buy American. And I proved it. But if you don't give the American consumer a reason to buy American, they're just going to continue to go to the shelf. And you remember I used the tape measures as an example, and they're just going to pick up the foreign, the outsourced tape measure, because we gave them no reason. But if you give them a reason to understand, if you purchase this product, these are the benefits, how it benefits your community, your infrastructure, your tax base, your quality of your education, and then your quality of life in your community. It's got numerous pluses on all this. Rita?
Well, it does. And for the consumers that really want to focus on Made in America and see what their options are, there are different platforms, and FLI Products is one of those platforms that really focuses on Made in America. And I've had Kevin Cody on multiple times. That's how I met the MitoGrow people that are going to be on next, is through them. And, it makes a difference when you want to buy Made in America. And you know that if you go to these different platforms and see what's there, and it says Made in America, it's because the people there have made sure that they meet the criteria for Made in America. And otherwise, you go to some of these other big box stores and it says Made in America, but you're never, the logo might be a little bit different. It may not be the official one that says Made in America, but some other wording that confuses the consumer. And we don't always know. When you go and look for something, you just don't always know. You see Made in America and you think, oh, yay. But no, there are criteria that companies that are really Made in America have to meet. And it can be very misleading unless you're going to, a place that is making sure that if it says Made in America, it is Made in America.
After 29 years, I'm going to admit something right here. And I know this is going to shock everybody. No. But at the end of the day, I depend on my guests to educate me. Now, I know over the years, I want to educate my guests, but the whole reality of this is that my guest educates us. It educates me. So not only I guess what I'm trying to say is that, it's a lot easier for me to represent my audience because our 200,000 people that listens to us stream all over the world or whatever, they can't get in front of you. So I have to be their representative. So I am getting all the information to me and hope my guests can educate me on. And it just makes us a better all around. I continue to get educated. So I'm never going to admit that again. That's just a one-time thing. And after the show, and the show airs, I'm going to delete that. That will never be out there again. Okay, but
I won't tell anybody. I promise.
So tell us about our guest. Let's talk about him.
The guest I've got on today for Made in America is MitoGrow. And Chad, am I saying that right? Am I getting those vowels going the right direction?
You got it. MitoGrow.
All right, MitoGrow. And they've got a very cool science behind what they do. It's made here in America. I did meet them through Kevin Cody with FLI Products.
All right.
And one of the things that I love is, when you're looking at the different things and the different people that I've had on with Made in America, there's always a story. I love being able to tell the story and share with everybody how did the company get started? What was the aha that got it? And sometimes it was generations, and the product has changed through generations. Sometimes it's an aha moment in the science room where you think, oh, this is really cool. Let's make this and get to market with it. And the stories are always wonderful and exciting. And when we share those stories with the consumer, it sparks then when they go and they think, I want this product. I want to go and find it. I want to buy Made in America. And that's what it's all about, is being able to share with the consumers products that they may never even have heard of that are made right here in their own backyard.
Education and information. That's just what it boils down. The more we can educate and provide the information, but at the end of the day, we have to allow the consumer to make that decision. But again, it's always buyer beware. Because I need to tell you, again, we invent here. We don't counterfeit. We don't steal. We don't. That's why we're the technology capital of the world is the United States because of our freedom to express, the freedom to develop, the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to to be control of your own life. This is what makes us who we are, and this is an advantage that we have over the world. They like to have our brain power, you know, and I know I'm getting off a subject here, but I'm talking technology now because what has happened the last 3 days in Iran with getting the soldier back and the technology it took to get the soldier back. That's the point. We have the technology here in the United States, and it's amazing. Now we have to unleash it. Now we're going to have AI. We're going to have, certain things that AI can provide, but we're going to have to address these AI issues. And we talked about that. So, hey, this is why look, when I thought I was going to get off the air and just call it quits, now I'm probably going to go another 10 years on this because now information is changing and it's keeping me in the air. But we're going to have to take a short break. You're listening to the Made America Show right here on the King's Broadcasting Network, along with my sidekick, the inventor lady herself, Rita Crompton. We're going to be back with a guest, our first guest, first topic. Y'all stay tuned now. You hear?
This segment is brought to you by SearchQuest Patent Search. SearchQuest provides for a comprehensive patent search that searches the entire world and not just the U.S. Patent Office. Make sure that before you spend those big bucks having a patent written, you've done your due diligence by getting a comprehensive patent search. Use SearchQuestPatents.com for all your patent search needs. They scour the world for you.
Hey, welcome back to the Made America Show right here on the King's Broadcasting Network. I'm often asked, when is Rita and you actually live on the radio? When actually, we've heard all sorts of times. Well, I'm going to answer it again right now because I'm looking at all my tweets right now. Saturday from 3 to 6. 3 to 6 Central Time. That's when we actually put out the live single all across the country. That's when we live. Other than that, if you're catching us at any other time, it's been rebroadcast or delayed broadcasting from some of our affiliates. So there you have it. All right, Rita, who's our sponsor for this segment?
This segment is brought to you by TrueView. It is the only accurate 3D real-time imaging that replaces the mirror, okay? That blind spot mirror detector. TrueView, it is available on cargocatch.com, and it will show you exactly where that big vehicle is coming up next to you. TrueView at cargocatch.com. And my guest for this segment of this hour of Made in America is MitoGrow, and Chad Tyson is my guest. Chad, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Rita, for having us.
All right, so what is it? What is MitoGrow?
MitoGrow is on the scientific end known as a biostimulant. To most people, that doesn't mean much, but what we are is a way to prevent, recover, and to help plants to defend themselves against stress is the ultimate purpose of our product.
All right, so how long have you been making this?
Yeah, MitoGrow has been in the works for nearly a decade now. Many years of R&D that started in Texas. Our chief scientist that we still have with us has been developing over the course of many years throughout the Texas area, working with universities, using private companies for participation in applying products. So we get that scientific end, but also real world application as well, working with our partners to develop it into the product that it is today.
Okay. I think of, don't tell anybody I said this, a stress controller as a good glass of wine. So I am sure that is not what you had in mind with this. Tell me a little bit more about that science part of it. How do you de-stress a plant?
Sure. So we work with a plant on the cellular level. And how we do that is our product is a combination of both biology and chemistry. The biology of the product is beneficial microorganisms that live in the soil that we supply a whole plethora of them to give a really good, rich diversity. A lot of these microorganisms that live in the soil all perform different functions. So one may help the plant uptake more nitrogen, one may help uptake more potassium or phosphorus or whatever there is, but it uses a symbiotic relationship with the roots over a course of time. It helps feed the plant, and that plant helps feed them. So they work in tangent together. Throughout the course of natural history, that's always occurred, but humans have a good way of messing that balance up. So we help restore that on the biological end. On the chemistry end, we help supply natural hormones that plants produce to help fill out the root zone. So we provide those nice, lush feeder roots back to the plant again so it can help protect itself, pull up water, pull up nutrients, and have a long and healthy life.
So indoor or outdoor or both? What is the difference between giving your plant a de-stressor indoors and outdoors?
It's the same thing, same science behind it. So whether you have a jade plant sitting on the windowsill that you've had for 10 years, a lot of people are obsessed with indoor plants, but also out in your yard too, whether it be as small as a potted pansy over the winter or a large oak tree that's in your yard. The same applicable science works at the cellular level on any plant variety. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for preventing stress and helping to recover from stress.
Very interesting. And your website is?
MitoGrow.com.
I want to say that a whole bunch of times so that anybody out there that's growing something, they can run out and get this ordered. So MitoGrow.com is where you can get it. I also know that you can get it on FLIproducts.com, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Where else can you get it?
So we sell it, like you said, direct to consumer on our website, MitoGrow.com. We also are making our push into retail in 2026 within ACE stores throughout the country and also independent garden centers. So we're really having a good time working with the individual owners of ACE stores and independent garden centers because they have the most impact in the plant community nationwide. So we wanted to start there first.
Well, I can't wait to get some because I've got indoor plants, I've got outdoor plants, I have got, 24/7 plants, and they're all, they all scream different things.
Correct.
I've got the succulents that, don't need much water, and then I've got the basil. It's like, feed me now, feed me now, feed me now, and you just don't always know what makes the most sense for any given plant.
That's right. And that's what we want to do. We want to give confidence to the home gardener because especially if you're going to this as a novelist, you go to the store, you buy all these plants, you have spring fever, and you bring them home and you want to protect that investment. So what we want to do is give confidence to you that you can go in, have as many plant success stories as you can without losing them, because it takes a lot of time and effort, and you want to ensure that you're successful.
So how often do you feed your plants then? How often do you de-stress your plants? Feeding and stressing are different, right?
That's correct. So actually, MitoGrow provides no nutrient value. We're not a fertilizer at all. We pair well with fertilizers because it makes them more efficient. But our goal is to provide that natural balance in preventing stress is our primary goal. Obviously you don't want your plants to get to the stress level, so you want to prevent it. But if that were to occur and they were to come under some sort of a decline, we can help pull that plant back into health. So like I said, obviously it would be better off if it never had to go through the stress in the first place.
Oh, not my plants, because it's just kind of an automatic assumption they're going to stress at some point because, okay, I did not have the green thumb, my father did. And so I appreciate that I could have something that would de-stress them when I'm not doing my best. So helping folks understand that this does not replace the fertilizer. We're going to get back to this in just a couple of seconds. We've got to go and pay some bills, take a quick break. We are going to hear from our sponsors here, and then we will be back with some more information about MitoGrow. So stick with us, everybody. Made in America. We'll be right back.
If you're an inventor or you know an inventor out there who would just like to be able to have a conversation with other inventors, join the Inventors Roundtable. It's free. The meetings are virtual, so you can be anywhere in America and talk to another inventor. And for a lot of folks out there, understanding the process, being able to ask questions, getting good service provider information is critical to the inventing process. So, got questions? Want to join? It's free, inventorsroundtable.org.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. It is an honor to be able to present to you different products that are made right here in our own backyard. So my guest is MitoGrow, and we are talking about plants and feeding our plant. De-stressing the plants, not feeding the plants. You still need to feed them, but every once in a while they get stressed. And MitoGrow, Chad, how do you know your plant is stressed?
Most times it's visually. Most people know that whenever they start seeing some discoloration, some defoliation, losing leaves, wilting, something along those lines.
All right, so one of the things that we face out here a lot of times is those little itty bitty white things that grow around and, stress your plant. So you still have to kill the bugs, all right? Memes oil does a good job, but MitoGrow then will help it revive from the stress of the bugs.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So one thing that I like to educate on is I like to compare it to a person taking vitamins or maybe a probiotic or something to overall improve the health of the person. We're similar to that in the way of a plant. So imagine if one plant has succumbed to, like you said, these pests, maybe an aphid. It's less likely to be healthy and more likely to succumb to other stresses that are out in the environment. So if we're providing our product, ensuring that the plant is internally more healthy, able to pull up more water, more nutrients, it has a stronger, I guess you would say, ability to fight off other stresses. So if it's a stronger plant versus a weaker plant, it's less likely to succumb to those other stresses. It has a better immune system in a sense.
Well, and we all know how important that immune system is. So what has been the biggest challenge over the 10 years?
Yeah, I would say honestly, the biggest hurdle is education. So we are an entirely new product in this category for lawn and garden. And so like I said at the beginning, whenever I tell a person that we're a biostimulant to the layman, that doesn't really mean much. And I wouldn't know that either. If I were to give this product to my parents, they would say, that doesn't mean anything to me. How is it going to help me? What problems is it going to solve? And the problem it's going to solve is, like we've been talking, is to combat stress. You can provide the perfect soil, you can provide the perfect set of fertilizer, water, but ultimately there are so many factors within the environment that you can't account for. And our product helps eliminate a lot of those. One thing we do like to say as a product is we are an insurance policy. So you're spending a lot of money, you're a lot of time, you're decreasing the likelihood that your plants are going to fail. So that's kind of the value proposition that we present.
Very, very good. So you said you started, the company started about 10 years ago, going through the science process, takes some time as well. Was it, just kind of a local, growing of the product and getting it out there? How did you, get it into the marketplace?
Yeah, so actually our chief scientist down near Houston wanted to experiment on some of the larger live oak trees that had been impacted by some construction. So some of the homes that were, buying these beautiful lots because they had beautiful trees, built homes, it disturbed the root zone of the trees. And he noticed that there was a gradual decline of these really majestic live oak trees. So he wanted to go and see if this product could help reverse that decline that had happened. So actually the story is great because our founder of the company was actually one of the people who built one of these houses, had the issues with their trees. They didn't want to lose them, consulted many high-ranking, well-known arborists in the community. What could he do to help turn around his trees? And they basically said, the next visit's probably going to be a chainsaw and coming in and removing them. And there's no way to replace a 200-year-old live oak tree. Luckily enough, one of the scientists had stopped by that location, left a flyer on the door and said, I think I can help you be able to turn around your trees. And he said, well, I'm really faced with no other option other than to try this out. So what the heck, let's give it a try. So they did, and within about 6 months, all of the trees had completely reversed, turned around, new fresh foliage, and they're still there today. So he luckily had the time and ability to help push this product into a patented form, provide resources for R&D, and get it to the place that's actually marketable today. So it started out with saving huge live oak trees, and now we help with any kind of plant, A through Z.
How did they come up with that? I mean, it's not like you wake up and say, "Oh, let's de-stress the plant." How did he even know, that was, what's different between, water, food, fertilizer, and,
Yeah.
spraying the bugs and getting rid of the aphids? Where did he think, aha, let's work on the stress thing?
So the stress is really mitigated at the foundation of a plant. Your plant may have a huge root structure. However, if it doesn't have at the end of this root structure in the drip line, a really healthy, vibrant, fibrous roots that are actually extracting most of the water and nutrients from the ground, then it's not going to be able to help itself. So locating that and figuring out that the combination of a plant hormone that occurs to produce those fine feeder roots, plus all of the beneficials in the soil that help feed that in a symbiotic relationship, came out to be the winning combination to be able to help plants out. So it was really just putting together the idea of, chemistry and biology, making them work together in a brilliant way that has proved super effective over the past 10 years.
I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So during the process, what was the biggest surprise?
I think the biggest surprise for us was seeing these really long-standing industry professionals who know what they're doing, but just haven't really been provided an option for saving some of these plants. I mean, we're talking about people who move huge trees, transplant them, that you have to take on an 18-wheeler just for one tree. They've been doing it for, 100 years now, but we've actually provided them a product that is helping with long-term establishment and getting them into a place. Because obviously these people are spending tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars to move these trees. We've provided them a new option to guarantee the success over the long term. So to see a professional like that take in the product and say, wow, this has given us a new option, new viability for our business to validate what we're doing is really reassuring.
It's one I can hear my father whispering in my head, you need to get some of that, you need to get some of that. And so yes, I am listening, Daddy, because I know I need to get some of that for sure. My issue is, overwatering the succulents, not watering the other ones enough. And so, yes, being able to help them de-stress is going to be a big deal. And I'm going to be the envy of all of the ladies out here that want to say, what are you doing to those irises? And it's like, yes, yes, we got this. So we're going to come back and we're going to ask you again a little more detailed question on all of this. But again, give us the website so that we know where to go to buy it. And I'm not telling any of my friends, not until they see what an amazing product it is.
It is at mitogrow.com, MitoGrow.com.
Excellent. And you've been selling now for 10 years?
Not quite. We had to go through about 7 to 8 years of R&D, so we've really been selling it for about 2.
All right. I would imagine you're still doing some of that R&D.
Oh, absolutely. It's a never-ending process. We work with universities and professionals at all times.
All right. Have you ever heard of the R&D tax credit for inventors?
Yes.
Excellent. Good job. 9 times out of 10, I get a big old fat no. So anyway, everybody stay with us. We're going to find out some more information about MitoGrow and what it can do for you and your plants. And the story is fascinating because we love those science aha moments that make a difference in our everyday lives. So stick with us, everybody. We will be right back with Chad Tyson and MitoGrow.
Introducing the amazing new Snoozle. It sprays faster, lasts longer. Ask for Snoozle by name.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. We love to present to all of our listeners the wonderful products that are made right here in our own backyard. This segment is brought to you by Product Quick Start. Noah McNeely is our contact for all prototypes and manufacturing done anywhere that you need to have it done. Product Quick Start. I've heard people say that they think he walks on water. I know better, but you know what? He's got a great reputation for doing manufacturers' prototypes. And my guest right now is Chad Tyson with MitoGrow, which is another miracle. I guess you know, I'm sure that you've had people say that they think that you guys walk on water because you save their plants, their trees, and anything else that is growing in dirt.
We've had a lot of good reviews so far, and that's extremely validating.
I can only imagine. So what challenges have you guys faced and conquered?
I'd say the biggest thing kind of that I mentioned earlier is that educational piece. So whenever you're bringing something into market that has kind of been stymied or a little old school for many, many decades, you bring that into a new product that's on the shelf and they're like, what is this? It's got a new name. It's something that I've never seen before. How do I apply it? In what cases do I apply it? There's a lot of questions that we have to get into educating people on best case use and how it applies to them and how it can solve their problems. So really that factor of providing the information from us to our consumers is both a challenge, but also extremely rewarding as well.
So where do you manufacture? You've said Texas a lot of times. Are you manufacturing in Texas?
Just outside of Texas, or Dallas, Texas, in Tyler.
Okay, been there. So one product or different versions, varieties of products on the website?
It is 3 products right now. So we have a tree and shrub focused product. We have a bloom and bed. So that's annuals, garden, outdoor. And then we have a pots and planters, which is for anything in pots, indoor plants, stuff like that. So we kind of covered the gamut.
Well, yeah. So what is the difference, in treating your pot inside and your herb garden outside?
Yeah, it really just comes down to it's the same science that supports it, but it's just different application methods or strengths. So obviously, if you have a oak tree in your front yard, it's going to require a little more product because there's just more biomass to a tree, maybe rather than your basil plant. So that's all it really comes down to.
You were reading my mind. So yes, definitely the herb garden, the forest out here pretty much takes care of itself on the growing, but do have a wide variety of things out here that we're responsible for. So it's always interesting to then, kind of pick your brain and learn so that I can have new things to apply to my growing yard. Sometimes you don't want it to grow. Weed whacker is one of my favorite tools.
Yeah.
And so really understanding how, to keep those weeds from growing and, the creeping kudzu comes up all the time, but getting the products into the marketplace, what advice do you have for other folks that are trying to get a product that's new and based on a new science or a new technology into the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to explain your uniqueness, something that hasn't been done before, why you bring a new solution to problems that people have. Ultimately, if every gardener was successful, it was always sunny and rosy in every person's backyard, then there wouldn't be any need for us. But obviously, as we know, through trial and error, that's not the case. So our value add to someone in the garden center would be that their plants can have a higher likelihood of being successful. They're going to have to do less replanting, and they get to keep the things that are important to them. Because in a sense, a garden has a lot of sentimental value to a lot of people as well. So they want to keep the plants that they have around for a long time.
Well, that would be a change for me because, I'm generally on a 6 to 8 week cycle of replanting just because I happen to kill everything.
And that's why we got to that's our tagline, "It's not dead yet." So
I know, I love it.
People like you.
I love it. I love it. So, over the years, what has been your biggest disappointment?
I think our biggest disappointment would probably be how the industry isn't accepting of new sciences as it should be. Like I said, the same products that have been on the shelf for my grandparents are still available to me. And we know a lot of
Yeah.
those because we go to the big box stores or Aces or wherever else. And it's hard to nudge our way into the real establishment of products that have been provided for a long time. A lot of the reason they've been around for a long time is because they do good work, but we offer a new solution, and I think sometimes they might feel a little threatened by that. But honestly, I take that as a compliment because that means we're doing something right.
Well, I think it's absolutely fascinating, and because what you've talked about in the science, all right, is that you can feed your plant, but if it's under stress, it may not be enough. You can water your plant, you can kill the little bugs that crawl around, but just like a human body, a plant body cannot always recoup from a severe stress level.
Correct. Correct. It needs that boost, and it's just helping your plant get back to that place of health. And once it is, it can kind of be a little more self-sufficient, but sometimes it just needs that turnaround and help on a cellular level. That just the same way as you go into the doctor and maybe having a shot of a steroid or something to get you back on the right track or antibiotics. We're not that because we're a very natural product, but that's the same analogy that I like to use because human health, plant health, very similar, like you mentioned.
Yeah, just, different environments still need to have, pay attention to the stress level. It'd be the same thing if you noticed your favorite pet under stress. And
Absolutely.
you've got to take him into the vet to get him fixed and checked on and see what's going on and stress. Huh. I think, everybody out there is going to be amazed to realize that, what, your plants can have stress, just like you can have stress. And MitoGrow, Long I, MitoGrow.com is where you're going to go to find the plant de-stressor. Chad, thanks so much for being with us today. We are grateful, and we will have you guys on again to
Thanks
talk
for having
about
us.
your very cool product. Everybody, thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America. We will be back next week with your Home Talk USA, our fearless leader, Michael King, and King Productions. And thanks to our favorite technician, Matt, for making it all happen. Bye, everybody. See you next week.